Alright guys, jumping straight into today's episode, we have a very special episode for you guys. Episode 8 brings you guys 3 very unique guests in the community. This is the first ever episode, we're doing a group episode. So jumping straight into this, we have Lucas, Woof and Fred with me here today. We're going to go ahead and give them guys a couple of minutes to go ahead and introduce themselves so you guys are well aware of what they do. So we'll start off with Lucas.
Right, so I'm Lucas, CEO and developer of Cybersole.
So hey, I'm Woof, CTO at Cybersole and developer.
I'm Frederick, and I don't know, I just see myself as a customer or something. Sneaker Twitter, you know.
Okay, asking all our guests the very first question that we ask all our guests on every single episode: how did they get into reselling? So let's start with Lucas.
So about 2 years ago, I actually had no clue that there was an aftermarket for these sneakers. Friends did it a bit, they got me into the hype around Yeezys. It was a time of I think it was Yeezy Breads, Zebras, stuff like that, Black Fridays. First release I ever did once I started getting to it was the I think Ultra Boost Trace Cargos. Not that hyped. I got a pair of Adidas Saturday morning for 220 and then resold them for 70 profit, which is tiny now, I guess, but for me at the time, was a 15-year-old, obviously that was crazy to make a 70 quid profit off a pair of shoes, right? So that was the first pair I resold, and then I started getting more and more into it. Next release were Breads. Got a pair of those off Yeezy Supply. Those were the Yeezy Mafia days when Yeezy Mafia announced all the releases on their Twitter, and I remember the password was released in the comments section, which to this day I still don't know how that happened, to be fair, because passwords are never released on Twitter now with Yeezy Supply. But I got a pair of those. Not so much a big profit. They didn't sell that much at the time. And then the next release, though, that was the big release, was the first release of the Zebras. I think it was in April, I believe, 2017. And they were Adidas exclusive. And I remember I set up these emulators on my PC, and I set up some auto clickers, 5 emulators using Nox. And I was at school, team viewed to my PC, and I wasn't expecting to get a single pair, and I got 4 out of the 5 pairs, which was crazy. 4 reservations hit. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to pick up all 4 pairs as they were on the same name because I wasn't expecting to get a single one. So we turned up to the thing, and the manager came out and said, "Yeah, I know what you did. Your name's 3 times here." So we only got 1 pair. He was nice. He got a pair. We sold that for, it was a huge profit. I mean, it's £1,200 profit, I think, because they were super, super limited Adidas exclusive. And then really from there, I started getting more and more into sneakers. I didn't resell much. Never really have. I quickly went into the botting game, selling scripts and bots. But yeah, that was pretty much my, where it all started from there once I made that release.
So that is a common thing that we do find in guests that come onto the show. They always look at the aftermarket, they recognize that the aftermarket is actually a thing, and then they go back to the beginning and be like, okay, how can I make myself this money? How can I create myself this profit? And they're automatically joining like that. So that is very similar to what all our guests usually say. But moving on to Wolf, how did you get into reselling?
To be honest, just like Lucas, I don't really have a background in reselling, but I joined around 2.5 years ago while I was offering programming services like online, like not specific at any bots or anything. And one day someone approached me to write them a Supreme bot. So I didn't know about the brand stuff, Adidas, Yeezy. I didn't know there was that hype in it. And after I started building the bot and delivering the product to him, I told him, "Oh, I want a part of the actual product. Like I will keep it updated and stuff." So that's basically how I got into reselling, and I started my own research. And that's basically how I started out, like joining sneaker Twitter through him and stuff.
So moving on to Frederick, how did you get into reselling?
So pretty much in 2016, my friends in school, they were Supreme and stuff, and I didn't even know what it was, but they told me it was so expensive, and you could resell this. So yeah, I tried to get into it more and saw there was bots and stuff. And then the BOGO dropped in 2016. That was the first time I tried to buy something, and I ended up copying. And from there on, I just I don't know, it just escalated, and gotten more into this stuff and learn more about drops and bots.
Yeah, I think what's great about this community is that it's so easy to get into, even when you're still in school, part-time thing. You can, it's an easy community to get into, easy way to to make a bit of money on the side. Quite a fun way too, and I think that's what's great about this. I think everyone joins really as a hobby at first, and it kind of escalated at this point to some people do this as a job, some people do this as a real hobby. For us now, it's become a huge company. That it's some of us, it's a lot of people who work for Cyber. It's how they pay for their college, how they pay for their rent. It's just become such a great community really to be part of, and I think that's what's great about this.
Yeah, one thing that I personally find interesting about hosting this is when I talk to guests and they do mention how they make money reselling, how they started, is that it started off being such a minority because obviously in everyone's lives they have other commitments such as college education, like you mentioned, and slowly as profit builds and the interest builds, it's interesting to see how that balance becomes more times dedicated towards reselling because they begin to notice the amount of money that can be made and the opportunities and doors that can be opened through pursuing reselling. So I think it's obviously very interesting to hear everyone's unique stories. But moving on to the next question, as you said, you progressed through the community and you overall accomplished many things, and all three individuals here with me today have accomplished very big things. Out of all the things you've accomplished, what has been some of the biggest things?
Right. So personally, I'd say, I mean, it's been quite a big journey from the start of Cyber, 1.0, 2.0, all the way to 4.0. But I think the biggest moment really was that 4.0 release. I mean, me and Woof were working on that for such a long time. From Christmas 2018, we started development. Woof started most of the development on the UI at that time. I was still trying to maintain 3.0. So we had to do two things at once. It was quite a difficult task. And that development lasted about 6 months. I mean, it was a huge overhaul. We had to redo the UI, we fully changed framework for the UI, recode the whole thing. I had to recode the whole backend because we wanted to add support for a mobile app, which, huge changes had to take place for that to be able to have those real-time tasks on your phone. But when we finally announced that with that announced video, and I mean, just going back, there's these videos of people who recorded the Discord audio chat when 4.0 released, and the excitement of the users and the reaction is just like pure gold. I mean, hearing people be so overjoyed for the release of a product we've made and worked so hard on, I think that's definitely the biggest accomplishment in itself. It's such a great feeling, really.
Of course, the 4.0 release was definitely something. There's not really much which I've accomplished like in the community or anything, but I think I'm most known for like taking stock on previews and Cyber now. So that's basically it.
Well, as you both just said, Cyber 4.0 was a huge thing. The video had countless views. I know so many people that were tweeting about that for weeks to come. The update was very strong. The production level on the video was very high. And overall, I think that whole announcement was a huge thing in your career owning Cyber, and obviously the people related to working at Cyber. So we've gone ahead and set the foundation. We've told you guys where our guests have come from. We've told you guys what their accomplishments are. We're going to move into one of the first topics of today's episode, and the main topic, which is restocks. If you guys are unaware about this topic, essentially a restock is where a company or a brand releases more products or services to the normal consumer to buy and to be able to use their services or products. And personally, in my opinion, in 2019, throughout this year, the most dominant thing that is being judged upon services, groups and bots is the way they restock products. So what better is to ask the Cyber team and ask them what their opinion on restocking is. So for the first question, what are some of the methods that you've seen previous bot owners or cook group owners, the methods that they've used to restock that you definitely think is a no-go?
A no-go. Well, I'd say, I think personally, when I personally dislike raffles, in my opinion, because even though it technically is the fairest way to release a product because it lets everyone enter and it's just based on luck. I feel like even the people who might be, fully committed to this product restocking, and they've been checking Twitter every day. They've been, really consistent at, monitoring their website and making sure they don't miss out on any of the restocks. They will have the same chance as someone which, let's say, arrived on Twitter 10 minutes after they tweeted the raffle link, entered through their phone, and that's it. And they might have never even participated in any restocks, in the past, or they might have just discovered the brand 2 days ago. So they have the same chance because it's the only factor for raffles is just pure luck. There's no skill, there's no speed. And even though a lot of people don't like first come, first serve, I personally think that at the end of the day, the whole idea of the sneaker reselling is about who is the fastest, who is able to get these products first, who is able to resell them, and it's the same idea with these restocks. If you're the fastest person, then you get to have access to these bots. But again, if there are some first comes first some drops which are botted or which have considerable unfair advantages due to some external factors, then I personally think that's unfair. We try and iron those out, as much as possible. But obviously, there's always going to be some factor which is going to make people unhappy, and there's no way really we can make everyone happy in the community. That's just not possible.
Yeah, I totally agree with your point there at the end where you said you can't make everyone happy. That is inevitability with a business. Some consumers out there will be unhappy the way you release things. Even if it's the most perfect method of doing something, they will always find something to complain about, which is just the inevitability with releasing products and services. Now, flipping the coin, going to a more positive side, you mentioned raffles, but is there anything else that you think is a successful way of restarting products or services? Like we said, recently you did implement the Twitch live stream made by Cypher. I've linked him down below in the previous episode, where he made that Twitch live stream, that animation, and you have to go complete a game on the website. What are some of the successful ways of releasing products in your opinion?
So yeah, I think that idea that we had to play a game was in itself was a great idea. I mean, because obviously it can't be botted because it's a completely different system, so it was never seen before. So bots can't be made for it. As you know, to make a bot, you need to have at least one example of release to be able to copy, the requests and stuff. But the only issue with that is that we had some server issues. I wish it went smoothly. Everything was going great. The whole setup was great. The whole idea was great. But just because of that server load, which crashed the servers, it kind of made people unhappy because, they thought that they were met with errors constantly, so they weren't able to get through. But apart from that, I think some ways of releasing queues can be good if done right. If queues have you sitting there for, 10, 20 minutes, people feel like their time is being wasted. And we see that a lot on Twitter, people complaining that we're wasting their time. We don't do that on purpose. We try our best to do the fairest restocks. And, making a queue system is not easy. I personally, I'm not a huge fan of queues. Again, it's pretty much just a raffle, in my opinion. It's the same thing as a raffle, just that you get the results like in 10 minutes, except for waiting for the results. It's pretty much the same thing. But again, yeah, I mean, queues can work if done right, but in my opinion, first come first serve restocks are the best. That's my preferred release. If a retailer was to release a pair of shoes, my preferred way of them releasing it would be through first come first serve. So that's just my opinion.
So one of the questions that I did have lined up for this conversation was the perfect formula for restocking products. And based on your conversation, you just said you feel like first come first serve is definitely the best way to go about it. But in some cases, companies could branch into raffles and queues if done correctly. And I think the main problem is with products and services is that they don't know how to create that standard, and they don't know how to create the perfect way of restocking products at the end of the day. So if you were to simply create a new product, create a new brand, and implement one method, what would that one method be, and how would you execute it to have the highest percentage of customer satisfaction with releasing the products?
Well, your customer satisfaction always going to be low because of scarcity of a product.
Mm-hmm.
So there's always going to be people who are going to be unhappy, of course. But I think the best way would just be first come first serve, with like a password, what we do right now, and then maybe like a card hold in case the payment doesn't go through. But the thing is, it's the best for like to let the user know whether they have gotten the product or whether they have taken L, so they can move on with their day.
Mm-hmm.
So I've seen a lot of like companies like dragging around like the user for like 5 hours to watch their Twitter, and that's actually wasting time.
If you have a first come first serve drop where you have a minimal user input to actually buy the product, so you click the button, you enter your credit card information, click buy, and then you directly know if you've taken an L, if you've gotten the product, right? That's the best way. Obviously, ideally no errors, no server issues, no unfair advantages, so no bots. We've done our best to eliminate all bots on recent releases, and I think that's gone well. But obviously, there's always going to be a moment where some people are going to have small advantages like autofills or monitors, and there's no way to completely stop those. But as long as it doesn't waste people's time, and as long as like you do, you try and eliminate most of the bots and you eliminate errors, I think that's pretty much the perfect formula for restocking, in my opinion.
So if we flip the conversation around really quickly, I want to talk to Frederick just for a quick second here. He is known for creating these dashboards for companies. Now, Fred, when creating these dashboards and when creating these services for these companies, what are some of the things you do take into consideration to create a product for the user, for groups and companies that all in all is easy for the user to use?
Yeah, so obviously I see myself as a customer, so I've always tried to think of what I prefer, and I think is the fairest way. So recently with bots like Hawk and Ganesh and Flick, I've implemented first come first serve and card hold. So like if you get a card decline or something, you're not just gonna lose the chance to buy this like lucrative bot. So I think that's the way I prefer it. Like personally, I hate like queue and raffle because you just don't really have a chance. Like at least with first come first serve, it feels like you have a shot.
Yeah, touching on what you just said, the queues and all the raffles, I feel like that creates a sense of lack of skill. Like if someone is very dedicated towards a brand and showing love towards a brand, they will dedicate the X amount of hours or X amount of minutes to go for that product, be the first one to get it out, the first one to actually get success with it. So touching on what you said, yeah, raffles and queues are a bit of a touchy subject. I think if done correctly, they can be good, but in some cases, they're quite annoying and all in all, don't represent the actual true fans of a product. But that is a nice segue into the next question. Now, we've talked about highly anticipated products that people want and also services that people want. What is everyone's opinion on groups that are solely dedicated to monitoring these products and all they use is taking the entire stock, creating a slightly unfair advantage towards other users that are trying to go for these products?
Well, first off, these groups are not just for monitoring these bots and services which are restocking. I mean, they're mainly, firstly created for, well, they're cook groups. So they monitor, restocks on various websites, such as Shopify, monitors, etc. And the point of that is so that when there's a restock for a certain pair of shoes, for example, that resells, their users can obviously purchase it and then resell it for profit. And as recently bots, due to the fact, due to their limited nature, have, gained quite a considerable resale value, and some even more than most sneakers which are releasing nowadays. It's become natural that obviously these groups are going to implement monitors that monitor for restocks of these products, because the whole point, the owners of these groups, their role is to maximize their users' profit. That's why you join one of those groups. That's why you pay a subscription for those groups. So as much as I hate the fact that some groups of users do have an advantage as opposed to others, there's not much you can do about it at the end of the day. That's the nature of this whole community, right? Is to try and maximize everyone's profit. Again, monitors, in my opinion, not much you can do about it. If everything is monitorable, right? There's no way to permanently stop monitors. But if a group is going to, for example, offer a free bot or extension which drastically improves someone's chance at getting restocks, then that, in my opinion, is unfair. And we have taken measures against that. We're taking measures to stop bots from, purchasing cyber on restocks. Something I also hate is when groups, use the success on certain restocks to promote, their own products or their own group. And we see it a lot with, I won't name them, but we see it a lot with many popular groups in the community that they post, all these success pics from restocks, and it creates a huge resale value for the actual group. And sometimes not only are the pictures stolen from someone else on Twitter and posted for fake success, or they're posted multiple times. We've actually seen this for the last cyber restock, where the stock was only 20 copies, but there were many more success pictures than on Twitter from various groups, which I'm pretty sure you know which one I'm talking about, which reposted the same pictures multiple times. And then the groups which just use the fact that they have the most success on restocks to promote their group, when in reality it's just because they have such a large user base. If you have the most users in one group compared to the others, it's normal that the percentage of people who get the restock, who copy a restock, are going to be in that group. That's just how statistics works, right? So it's not because the group is specifically good at monitoring the website that these users have got this unfair advantage. It's because most of the users are in one specific group, and they have such a large user base. So you can't really stop that. You can't really stop it, but I really hate it when groups use success from restocks to promote their own products, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think it comes down to the basis of them piggybacking off your success, which obviously isn't a likable thing. Everyone sees it. Everyone that is watching this episode sees it on the timeline. When cyber restocks, when Ganesh restock, any type of big bot restocks, you always see these groups creating this type of manipulation, in a sense, to get new consumers to come to their groups just because of the fact that they were successful. But once you factor in every single statistic, like user skill level, the amount of users, the time of the restock, the region times in certain places, if you factor all that in, I feel like people would be able to see the true difference, and people will be able to see the groups that do actually give an advantage with the best advice and the best things to do. But obviously, in this day and age, and just the way how the community works, that isn't a thing, but it is something to keep your eyes out for.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like, for example, on our restock where we did a Twitch stream, if there was no way that any group provided any help whatsoever for users to be able to a copy on that restock. Everyone was on the Twitch stream, so everyone had an equal chance. Everyone saw the link at the same time. Monitors didn't pick up the link because that link never existed before, and there was no direct link, which bypassed the game, by the way. I know some people think that's the case, but that's not true. You had to play the game to be able to purchase a copy. So no groups were able to give an advantage, even though we did see some success pics retweeted by some cook groups on Twitter claiming that they helped them purchase, but that's not true. I mean, unless they offered Pac-Man training, then there's no way that they offered any sort of advantage. But again, that's just marketing. That's how it works, and we see it also when people, even with sneakers, when they copy a pair of sneakers using a bot, even if the drop was announced in advance, they'll still shout out the cook group for help, for God knows what help they provided when the time and date was announced before. But there's nothing you can do about that.
So it's kind of contradictory, because we used to piggyback with stores. Like, as a bot, we would tweet out says when you buy 5 pairs of off-white Kith. It's kind of created the same situation with us, but then with cook groups, and we're also having to stop bots and stuff. It's just as if we've become a retailer ourselves.
Yeah, definitely. I think we have the retailers which sell the products at the top, then you have the bots, and then you have the cook groups. That's kind of the chain. So yeah, I mean, they're obviously attempting to grow their audience, grow their customers based on other products which have a bigger following base. That's just normal. That's how marketing works. You can't really do anything about it.
Yeah, personally, if I just want to throw my own opinion in here, the most recent restock at the time of making this video was a stress test on their website, but we're referring to the Pac-Man type of restock on Twitch. Personally, I feel like that is the best way. There's literally no type of OCR that people have made. Probably people will make OCRs for Twitch just so it's quicker. in advance now that we know that's a release method. But at that time, there was literally no type of advantage you could take. Personally, I know for a fact that I was recording the entire thing. I went on different browsers. I went on to try to complete the game. And each and every single recording, my findings were that you completed the game and you got access to the product. That's how it was. It was the most fair thing, the most easiest way to go about it. And honestly, I'm not saying that every single bot should start a Twitch channel and every single bot should start releasing on Twitch, but it's something to take from because of the fact that they eliminated that type of advantage or any type of advantage element when restocking cyber, and they created a very fair scenario for every single consumer to go for it. Literally the only disadvantage you could have is if you've never played Pac-Man before, but then again it is a simple game, so it's really easy to pick up on, and all in all it was a very fair restock.
Yeah, exactly. I think, by choosing a game which, normally most people have played before, they know the rules, they know how it works. And also, instead of, by doing a Twitch stream in itself, it's kind of as if you had a real-time monitor in front of you. You don't need a monitor that pings you to give you the link, because the Twitch stream pings you and gives you the link. So we've already provided you with the fastest way of getting access to the restock, so there's no way you can have an advantage. And also, made sure to I spent a large majority of the day making sure that, for example, you can't share cookies with anyone else, because cookies are IP bound. So even if you do win the game, you can't give the cookies to someone else so they can get through without playing the game. You can't purchase twice. You have to play the game. It will send you back in the game if you try to purchase again. So everything, was extremely fair. It was one purchase per person, one session per IP, and Twitch was in sync with everyone who was watching it, so everyone got the link at the same time. So that was, a really fair release in my opinion. But obviously, we still got backlash for that, unfortunately, as the servers went down. But as I said, you can't make everyone happy.
Touching on one of the things you just said, you said that multiple people weren't able to buy copies, and that is one thing I did find from having a look at just being on the timeline in general, being aware of the entire restock. I did see some screenshots of people saying that you've already purchased the product, so you can't buy it again using on the same card and using same details, which I personally think is a very, very good step forward to try give other people a better chance at getting this product, because at the end of the day, you as a bot owner and bot developers, all in all, for every single type of bot, they would rather have two individual different people buy the product rather than one person buy it and then be successful in the restock because they know how it works and buy 3 copies and make X amount of profit. Yeah, at the end of the day, the copies do go to someone, but I feel like bot developers and bot owners would much rather have someone individual get the actual product that they've been trying to get for a very long time and go there directly instead of buying it from resale markets.
So I just want to touch on that. Like the whole like people can only buy one stuff. I think it's kind of like it's a loop, As Woof said, the bots are turning into retailers, and I think it's kind of, I don't know, like bots is made to buy multiple and to resell. So I think it's kind of weird.
Yeah, I agree, because I mean, even though you can check the email to make sure that they haven't purchased, or check the IP, people will always find a way around that. I mean, people who buy these bots are resellers, right? So they have multiple credit cards, they have multiple, they have proxies, so they can use proxies. They have multiple shipping addresses. You can jig your shipping address, you can jig your email. I mean, if retailers such as Nike and Adidas can't stop, people from buying multiple pairs, how would we stop people from buying multiple pairs, considering they have a bigger database than us, with more information, more customer details. There's no way to actually stop it. We can, reduce it to a minimum, but that's what we can do, really.
Yeah, I feel like there is a certain element of duality, and obviously this is not a shot at any type of bot or group owner that restocks products, but at the end of the day, we are advertising and we are pushing people to resell. That is the main element within this community, to resell products for profit, and inevitably people do that with bots because the bots market is pretty big. So it is that duality that you have to play with to try to stop people reselling, to help people resell, which is a weird thing to say, but at the end of the day, it is a very current theme in the community.
Well, we review most of like the orders after restock to like actually like actual retail, like check if there's any duplicates or anything. But it's insane how bots have blown up to be this much worth. Like we've never created Cyber to be like the biggest resellable bot with like the highest value. We just wanted to provide a way for people to purchase multiple sneakers or items.
Yeah, I remember when I just started this, and like, bots used to resell for cheaper than their retail. I mean, you do group buys to get the bot for cheaper than the retail. That was the whole point of group buys. Now group buys, you do group buys with bots and you pay double the retail or triple the retail. It's crazy.
Moving on to the next question. Now, we've talked about restocking products. We've talked about the whole duality within that. What is your motive? What is your mindset going towards competition within bots? Like, as you said, people have been making bots over the past couple of years to help people get these products, and all products have the same factor within them that they want to give users success. So what is your mindset when you do come across competition that is coming off in a more malicious way and coming off as a more offensive way because they're calling you out for copying features or faking success and stuff along that nature?
At the end of the day, the product speaks for itself, right? So what I've been trying to push for recently is more transparency within bot companies so they can post stats, check out numbers, because we have, these I forgot the name of the Instagram, well, the Cook group, which posts, these bot reviews. And there are times where, in my opinion, it does seem biased because they base it off what Twitter success retweets or, public statistics. And public statistics aren't always the best way to go because they can be rigged, they can be fake, and some users of certain bots may post less success on Twitter than other bots. I know for a fact that our users don't post success that much on Twitter, especially our users which cook heavy. We have users which on Supreme drops they get 100, 200 items, but they never post success on Twitter, and that's fine. But if we're gonna get then ranked as one of the least performing bots compared to others in reviews, that's not right. But again, I feel like resale value kind of speaks for itself. I mean, resale value kind of has a correlation with the success of the bot. That's just how things work. And since 4.0 is released, I mean, just looking at numbers, we went, I believe, from, I think on the website right now we say 160,000 checkouts, which was, I made the website when 4.0 released, and at the moment we're nearing, I think it's, well, if it's 400,000 checkouts, right? Something like that.
Successful checkouts is 300,000.
300,000, that's it, right?
Yeah.
So it's nearly doubled, since 4.0 is released, which has been, what, 3-4 months, I think. So that's pretty crazy because we've, we've been doing this for about 1 or 2 years, and within 3-4 months, we've doubled the success. So I'm really proud of that.
Well, touching on what you just said with the success, personally, my own opinion on this entire thing is that it is insanely hard to create these kind of graphics and these type of videos judging bots, just because of the fact that there's a lot of elements. Like you said, most of the cyber demographic are people that cook heavy. They have large amounts of capital, large amount of knowledge, and they've actually looked into the bot, its functionalities, what works well. They've run countless drops and figured out what works, what delays work in combination with what sites. Now, personally, if I was one of them, if I had loads of capital and I was purely doing this to literally, linking back to some of your early points in the interview, cover rent, cover my expenses, I personally would not waste time posting on Twitter. However, that does not take away from the fact that the bot is successful, the bot does cook, and I don't think it is fair to justify a bot purely on what is posted on Twitter. I feel like bot developers should take that step forward, like yourself, and post statistics around successful checkouts and unsuccessful checkouts on Twitter.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, if you're going to start judging a bot, if it's been successful or not, then you should, at least take the time and properly consider that public stats isn't everything, right? If bots have posted numbers, then yeah, you can make a judgment based off that. But if you don't have concrete numbers from people inside the company, then you can't really make judgments. I mean, we have users which sometimes, in chat during drop might say that another bot hit, but they're looking at the public checkout feed, right? Which is everyone, these thousands of users which are running, and maybe 1 or 2 or 3 might get a couple of checkouts. Just because a couple of people got checkouts does not mean that they're more successful than us or than any other bot. It's really just, you have to look at you also have to look at the amount of users that a bot might have. I hope, normally if a bot has 3 or 4 times more users than another, they should have more success. But that might not mean that the checkouts to user ratio is higher. I know we have a pretty high checkout to user ratio. I think that I did the calculations the other day, and we was about, since the very start, so amongst all our users, considering that there are a bunch which are inactive, and obviously there are a lot which cook way more than others, but on average each user has checked out about 78 to 80 items since they had cyber, which is a lot. Obviously it really depends on the items they've checked out, but based on all the all users, about 80 checkouts per user, which is, I'm really happy with that. So that's great.
Yeah, so on the whole, like where we see bots going in the future, just want to say I kind of feel like bots and groups are kind of making its own economy, like how groups are now just to cop bots, and bots, I don't know, maybe it's kind of going away from the whole point of getting shoes, I feel. So I don't know, I'm kind of worried about the future. But like I hope it's gonna last, of course. But I've always seen like bots and like my dashboard myself as a kind of fad, but apparently it's still going, so maybe
I
the
mean,
future's bright.
this has been around for a while, right? I mean, it's been around for many, many years, botting. And I think it's, especially recently, it's getting harder and harder, to bot these websites. We have these whole companies, these whole teams. We have a whole Shopify team, or Akamai might have a whole security teams, which are dedicated in working on security to prevent these bots from getting through on their website and purchasing the stock of these releases. But as botting gets tougher and tougher, bots get more and more advanced. So I don't think there'll ever be a point where bots will completely fade away, because in my opinion, it's in the retailer's best interest to still have these bots. I mean, these bots drive the hype around the products. They drive the resale, and I can guarantee that if bots did not exist, Yeezys would not be as big as they are nowadays. I mean, how many colorways, how many variations have they made of these Yeezys? I mean, I remember when they used to do one every 6 months, 2 years ago. Now there's one every like 1 or 2 weeks. I mean, they are milking the Yeezys. Same for the Jordans. And the only reason why it's still selling out is because it's getting botted. So it's selling out fast, meaning that people who don't have bots or don't know about bots and who wanted these shoes aren't able to get them. So they have to end up, purchasing from a third party or a resale market. And this whole community, this whole idea is driving not only the retailer's profit, but it's driving the hype behind these shoes. So I don't think it's going to go out anytime soon, in my opinion.
Yeah, touching on some points that you both just made there, I feel like this may be a weird thing to say, but bots at the beginning motivated and fed into this addictive nature that everyone has about reselling, to get something for X amount and resell it for extra amount to make your money back that you invested in, as well as a profit. Now, that might have tripled into bots, and that might have spurred this whole market, creating these huge marketplaces to sell these bots. Now, was that intentional? No, it wasn't. The whole purpose was to get these shoes and get these items. But fortunately or unfortunately, depends how you look at it, it's created this whole market. And like Lucas just said, without bots, I don't think these brands would be as big as they are, because end of the day, when you're seeing people hit 200 clips, 250 clips, or 100 clips on these websites, that's one person. They're still taking stock from their website. They're still creating hype for that, and overall making these brands bigger. And I feel like these brands have noticed that, and that's why they're pumping out more products. Like you said, back in the day, Yeezy used to release a product every couple of months. Now it's like every couple of weeks you see Yeezy Mafia tweet out a colorway that, in my opinion, doesn't look very good usually, but they're still creating these products because they know the hype is still there. Going into the final part of the interview, as we are at the end of 2019 and as we are going into the beginning of 2020, what does everyone have planned and what is everyone bringing to the table going into this new year?
Yes, so for my dashboards, I kind of like it's kind of hard balancing with school, but I wanna make like a platform. I think like a centralized thing, so like the users will have more control, kinda, and yeah, I just wanna maybe keep on going.
So we don't really have like a major version planned yet. Maybe we will in 2020. We're just gonna stay building cyber and maximizing the user success. And we'll have to adapt to these changes because Shopify has been acting up the last couple of releases. So it's just gonna always be a cat and mouse game to properly build their websites. So I guess that's what we're gonna be doing in 2020 as well.
I think something I do have plans for the company is we want to um, expand the user dashboard a bit. We want to steer away from Discord OAuth and make our own account system where we'll be able to, you can like shuffle keys, maybe you can do renting, because there's so many scams or cases where people get their keys stolen or get their when they rent keys out, they get the keys stolen or they get their keys unbound somehow. I mean, I don't know how those things happen, and most of the time it's because of poor, security that these people have set up. You should always have 2FA on your Discord. So yeah, talking about that dashboard, I want to provide, key shuffling, key renting, and maybe more of an extended account settings part. But that's probably going to be later on in the year because we have some other work plans. We have to focus on the bot, focus on changing the website like Shopify. And once we've, got a good grip on that, maybe we'll start doing changes to.
Well, that is reassuring to hear you're all actively moving towards growing your brands and creating it in a better way. But moving on to the final question. We've talked about all your collective brands and what you work to do every day and the products you create. What are some of the things collectively all of you are going to steer away from going into the future?
I think as a community, the whole sneaker community needs to, really avoid certain things. Like there are way too many groups at the moment which offer, these like, what's it called? Dash Door? Is it Dash Door? DoorDash, sorry, my bad. They don't provide it in the UK, so I never use it. DoorDash jigs, where it's using other people's accounts to buy free food, or other jigs which like Walmart jigs or whatever, which they're all just fraud, and it's created kind of a shady side to the community, which companies like Discord and stuff, they're starting to see into that, right? And they're starting to ban accounts, starting to ban groups, and if we're going to keep that up, it's going to throw shade on the community as a whole, because as a whole, the whole community, there is a good side to the community, right? Most of it is great. I mean, it's a considerably friendly community, but if we're going to have part of it which throws shade on it, it's going to create, a lot of bad things for us. Maybe, Discord is going to start banning, entire groups, not only just these groups which offer jigs, but maybe even bots groups or just cook groups in general. And we don't want to see that, right? We don't want to see companies like maybe even Twitter, turn towards us and start banning accounts. So I think the community needs to start being more aware of the consequences that these jigs that they offer might have. A lot of them are run by people which are, a bit delusional about, these consequences, and we really need to be quite, precautious with those things.
I totally agree. I feel like there are some elements that some bots and groups are playing with and don't really know the true potential of what could happen. Because at the end of the day, we've seen it happen with like Instagram accounts, Twitter accounts in some cases. It's not become a big thing on Twitter, but with Discords and Discord groups, we've seen them being wiped out. And at the end of the day, without getting too deep into it, these are people's livelihoods. These are people's literally one of the main sources of income, and I feel like that isn't something we should play around with. I feel like there should be more precautions going into the future just to make everything a lot more secure for everyone overall.
Yeah, so I also think the whole community should steer away from cracking bots and stuff, because it kind of puts a shade, like Lucas said, on the whole community, and also fraud. like Dash Store and the carding stuff. So
I feel like if we were to relate this to like a really real life problem, even with like groups of people, if you have a group of people doing a certain thing, like in an industry, for example, the news outlets and people that report news and highlight problems will always highlight the negative things. That's why collectively as a community, if we take steps to being more positive and pushing that moral boundaries to more positive things and removing the negative things, I think overall we will come across as a community that isn't shady, that isn't dodgy, and obviously these companies like Discord, like Twitter, like Instagram will slow down on banning us and overall just keep us a bit more secure within this space.
Yeah, definitely. I think also, cracking bots is a serious issue within the community. A lot of people do it way too freely. I mean, it's pirating, right? And some people are fully open about it without really hiding their identity. And when confronting them, they act as if they're the ones who, they're the good guys. They're the ones who are offering this great service of offering bots for cheap when it is fully illegal. I mean, cyber is copyrighted, so it is a crime if you crack these bots and sell them, especially if you sell them for profit. And they fully add their own licensing onto it. They fully sell it on their own websites, and a lot of websites like Selly, we do our best to try and shut them down. I mean, obviously Discord and Selly are completely against selling of cracked software, but there's not much that we can do about it, but it should seriously be avoided.
So guys, that is the end of the episode. If you guys did enjoy, please do me a favor, drop a like, subscribe, go down to the comments down below, let me know what you guys liked about today's episode. Go to the description, follow everyone in the video. I'll leave all the links down below and all their brands down below if you guys want to go check them out. I'm gonna catch you guys next time. Peace out.